Rich Tehrani with TMCnet, and today on our program we've got Carolyn Raab. She is with Corsa Security. Carolyn, how are you today?
I'm great, Rich. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Thanks for being here. I figured we'd start at the top. Tell us a little bit about your company and what you guys are up to.
Sure. So I guess, the reason we are around is we are the virtualization people for network security. So we've been around sort of 6 years. We just recently launched a new element of our platform for automating the conversion of physical firewalls to virtual firewalls, part of sort of the grander scheme of just bringing scale to network security through automation and virtualization.
So why is that important? Why would people want virtualization in their security?
Well, if you look at the internet and all aspects of our networks, virtualization is nothing new. I mean, everybody's doing it. The data center is the prime example. What VMware and Nutanix have done for the whole, scaling of virtualization, virtualized compute, storage for workloads and applications, and even network security in the data center has sort of all been virtualized. But if you look at the rest of the network, and what I mean the rest of, things like the internet gateway, where you're leaving the public internet into your private network, zone-to-zone connections, anything where you have north-south traffic, so data in transit through your network, that is not virtualized, and that's left people with architectures that are kind of similar to what they were doing 25 years ago, which was, you need to do something, you buy a big box, you put it in, and you have a kind of complicated, rigid architecture that's not easily changed. And where virtualization is doing so much, added flexibility, scale, everything that we know and love. Like if you use your Google Cloud, right? You're using virtual services. They work really well. It's not there in network security yet. So that's our mission, is to bring virtualization in a nice way to network security.
Now, how do you play with technologies that are evolving on the network? So like, let's say an SD-WAN type technology. Is there some way for you guys to assist with those sorts of deployments?
Yeah. So what we have is, if you think of virtualization requires some servers, so some kind of compute, hypervisor, and then something that allows you to orchestrate, so you can spin up and down whatever it is you're virtualizing. For us, virtualizing, we're starting with firewalling, but that's just one of the security services you would want, say, at your, on your north-south links. You can basically add or remove those as you would like. Virtualization in that capacity is something that I wouldn't say it's a carbon copy of what's done in the public cloud, but the elements are the same. And so we keep up with things like SD-WAN, or the big SASE movement now is another big trend. By being the infrastructure, we are the underpinnings of the virtualization. We are letting people do the automation through our platform that is taking care of essentially the tool that you need for scaling your virtualized functions. And SD-WAN is what you get when you use, for instance, virtual firewalls. You can implement elements of SD-WAN through your virtualization of your network security that's provided by many leading vendors. We are tech partners, for instance, with Fortinet, Palo Alto Networks. We don't do the security ourselves. We are an enabler of that virtualized security. So we think of Corsa as the underlying scaling and virtualization and automation infrastructure.
So does your solution allow a managed service provider or a managed security service provider to deploy services in an easier way, in a more scalable fashion than they may be dealing with deploying firewalls today via boxes?
Yeah, exactly. So the infrastructure that's doing the automation of virtualization is this integrated package where we have network security experts, networking experts, systems integrators. We take care of putting that together. So the MSSP or the service provider can literally one for one replace their physical firewalls with an exact replica of the virtual firewall. They would continue to host them in their network like they were doing for the physical firewalls, but literally at click of a mouse, push buttons through the Corsa security orchestrator, they can convert the physical firewall to virtual, and they can also instantiate any number of new virtual firewalls as new customers come online. And it doesn't stop with firewall, because then the next thing is, of course, whatever other security element you want. If it's web application firewalls or sandboxing or DLP, those functions can also be virtualized, just like with the virtual firewalls, and added to their service menu.
Now, it sounds to me like by doing this, that a managed service provider can provide a stickier service, because it's, you know, you've kind of tied your service provider into providing more services as opposed to just maybe fixing a Cisco box or you know, a white box or whatever the generic firewall box was. You kind of have now sort of embedded yourself in the customers. Is that true?
Yeah. What we like to call it, it's essentially what we deliver is a vending machine for security services. So once that infrastructure, once the server and the hypervisor and the scaling engine is there, you can now just add new virtual services. So a service provider could start with virtualizing their customers' firewall. Then they could start to offer new services, and with great speed, because that's the other thing that virtualization brings, is their time to new services. The time required to spin up a new service is dramatically reduced from what they were having to do with physical appliances. So they can do more from a service perspective, they can do it faster, and ultimately with virtualization, the nirvana, the end goal is the better economics.
Now, a question on the pricing changes, or the pricing that a managed service provider would be charging customers, because today maybe you sell a, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000 box. Maybe you have an update service, which maybe once a year is $500 or whatever the cost is to update, you know, bad addresses or potentially, you know, whitelist, blacklist, whatever lists are downloaded. So you pay some money there, and so maybe you have a fixed cost, and then you have an annual recurring maintenance cost. How does it work if you're deploying firewall as a service? So if an MSP is trying to make this switch, what do they need to know? Because it's got to be challenging for them to bring this to a customer, not knowing what the market would allow for, or what makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So I think one of the biggest advantages of the platform and virtualizing is that now you have a very, very granular pay-as-you-grow system. And so where before you would have to buy a box, and it would be either a box per customer firewall, or you might, cut and slice up multi-tenant your box, but you're still sort of in that fixed appliance world where it's quite structured and strict what you actually get. With virtualization now, you have a completely different model where you just add a virtual firewall as you need it. And so you're not having to commit to a certain size of appliance with some model of your network that predicts what your traffic growth will be like for 3 years. Now you can literally, that vending machine is you need more, you just add more as you need it. So that's one big advantage for the service providers, is they have they can fine tune their resources much more accurately. And secondly, when a customer comes to them and needs so much firewall capacity. That's day one. Over time, that will change. It never stays the same. It will change. And when you are changing virtual firewalls, you're literally, again, you're at your dashboard and you're clicking and selecting the next size up. If you were talking physical firewalls, now you're starting to have to shift things around, literally. You know, people, it's not a joke. People do say, though, with the pandemic, you know, more people working from home, it's yet another thing that the network side of our of security is dealing with. It's not an obvious thing to send people into server rooms, into your on-site for changing out gear, making changes. So virtualization gives you granularity, gives you that pay-as-you-go curve, but it also gives you the ability to manage all of your firewalling remotely.
And so your secret sauce in all this is that you're adding orchestration, automation, virtualization, as opposed to the actual firewalling itself. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yes, that's right.
So you can get best of breed or mix and match, whatever you want in terms of the underlying firewall technology, but at the same time you're able to manage it in a far easier way than if you had to do a native.
Yes, exactly. If you take as an example, if you imagine a service provider, an MSSP, who has a whole bunch of customers, and they're setting security rules and policy, and that's done through the firewall vendor's policy manager. We don't touch that, and that doesn't change. It's underneath when things are virtualized. It's now for the service provider, all this extra flexibility that the customer still has maintained all of their investment and all of their tools and tool sets, but under the covers, the virtualization is running and scaling to whatever degree those network security functions from the leading network security vendors. So, you know, the whole food chain is winning in this as we shift from, you know, the 25-year-old model in network security of just buying a box, as we move and adopt what, you know, we see elsewhere in the data center, and we apply that to north-south traffic.
And your company is not, you're not just selling to MSSPs. Or I know, let me kind of rephrase how I was going to come out with this question. I know that you seem to be in universities, you're working with government agencies, US government agencies, television networks. Are you selling directly to those customers, not just MSSPs, or are those customers via MSPs or MSSPs?
No, it's both. We sell directly to those as well. Our platform that automates the virtualization is excellent for that conversion of physical firewalls to virtual firewalls. It also is very, very good at scaling threat protection by using arrays of scaled out virtual firewalls. So it's another use case for the platform. And scaling threat protection, that's using the layer 7 features of the next gen firewalls, things like URL filtering and app ID. These are hard to do when the physical appliance is being asked to do it all. And so our platform can also assist network operators to increase the amount of traffic they can inspect, even when it's encrypted. And so that's where some of those other customers and market segments that you mentioned come in.
That's great. And you guys also recently, you won an award, it looks like, right? In Canada, is it the TAG Cyber Distinguished Vendor?
Yes. So this is, I think, our second or third year in a row that we have received that. And I think it's an acknowledgement. TAG Cyber is founded by Ed Amoroso, former CISO at AT&T, who spent 15 years in the latter part of his career promoting software-defined firewall and the whole software-defined networking approach. A lot of what you see at AT&T today, I think, could be attributed to him. And he has recognized our company as one of the leaders in the sort of software-defined or infrastructure as code movement, where we're moving away from those fixed function appliances to software-driven networking.
That's great. Is there anything else we should know about the company as people are considering using you or learning more? What else should we know?
I think that it's important just that the platform itself is this scaling engine that scales network security. And while we talk a lot about firewalls today, the vision really is to start to become an orchestrator and a platform that can deal with all of the network security functions for north-south. So if people have other things that they're interested in beyond virtualizing the firewall, like I mentioned, web application firewall, DLP, analytics, sandboxing, that we're very interested in those conversations too, because the platform can support that as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. This was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you, Rich.